right now is probably the best time to buy a bike. And whether you're interested in a new bike or not, keep watching this video, because this is going to be about some great buy-in tips and tricks, no matter where you choose to buy your bike, online, big box, independent bike shop, secondhand, whatever. Hopefully there's going to be something in this video that's going to be useful to you. I'm going to draw on all my experience of working in several different places, seeing the industry as it is right now, and hopefully share some really good, hopeful tips for you guys to get the absolute best deal if you're out shopping for a new bike right now. And why not? Because we are Christmas, Boxing Day is all out the way now. The spring, summer season, when bike brands traditionally start to launch their new models, is getting quite close. And there is a massive amount of inventory still out there to try and clear. Invoices are racking up. You might have seen in the news that Giant Bikes have just asked for a 45-day extension on their payment terms with their suppliers because they're still sat on an absolute mountain of stock they need to start shifting. So right now it is a super hot buyer's market and you can get some really, really good deals, but you've got to be savvy. So I want to show you how I think you can potentially get a really, really good deal. Now I want to start with shopping online on the big direct to consumer brands, because there is some really interesting ways that they work. And the one thing I'd say is have in your mind, be really mindful of that these brands have chosen their choice to forego having a showroom that you can visit. They've decided that the internet is going to be their showroom, and therefore your front room, your house is going to be their showroom. So quite rightly, they have fantastic returns policies that you should absolutely know about and be happy to use. Just like if you're going to buy some clothing of ASOS or whatever, you know that you can take it home, try those jeans on. If they don't fit, they go back in the post. Got to treat your bike purchase exactly the same. And the returns policies are there, but there's quite a lot of differences. So just let me show you what I mean. Let's just jump into this. So this is Canyon. Canyon are probably the best known for their returns policies, and it's a 30 days. We featured Canyon on the channel before, and we showed you how a customer fully utilized this as well. I'll put that video in the link somewhere. To make sure they came into us, got all those faults checked, sent it back to Canyon. You said, no, I don't want my bike shop to fix it. I want you to fix it and fully use this 30 days. They have to go back unused. That's the important thing. Now, I think you'll probably get away with using them on a turbo trainer or something like that. But as long as they go back looking unused and you haven't sweated all over it, just used it, sort of fine tune your fit, make sure you're happy with it and you've checked the quality, then that's really generous. Now, before I go into the other ones, the thing with Canyon is that when people do return a bike, they often pick up little sort of cosmetic scratches and scrapes, etc. So they actually have an outlet store right down here in the bottom right-hand corner. And if you scroll through this, you will find lots of examples of bikes that people have probably bought, decided that they don't want them or it's not quite right, and they sent them back. And if you click into these, you can see they're only available in certain sizes. You'll normally see there's like a bit of cosmetic damage somewhere, or it's not got quite the right parts that the full build had. The mechanics have done some work to it. So have a scroll through that. You can pick up some pretty good deals as well. Okay, back to other brands. Ribble, for instance, a 30-day test ride guarantee, which is insane. But make sure you look into the detail, because there is some cleaning fees in there and potentially some restocking fees if you choose to do the 30-day actual test ride. Now, 30 days riding outside is amazing. Like if you've got a holiday coming up, it would be put a new bike on a credit card, go and ride it for a few days on your holiday and then give it back. It would be cheaper than trying to hire a bike. That's absolute madness. But in 30 days, you'll have definitely uncovered any sort of problems. And that's what they're hoping, that you're going to love it and stick with it. But, be ready. Don't be British about it. Like, if you need to send it back, send it back. Not everyone is as generous as that. This is specialized. 30 days. If you're sending back bikes, you need to call a number and discuss it. So just be aware of that. It might be worth just contacting them first. Wheelbase, quite a big player now. They're just being brought out by JD Sports and opening new shops. We'll come on to that when we get to the big box things. But only 14 days, and they've got to be unused. Sigma Sports, therefore, 90 days. 90 days is quite a long time to have a bike sat in your front room deciding whether you want it or not. But as long as it's new and unused conditions, they'll take it back. So interesting. Just like be aware of all of that. Now, the other thing with buying online is you can't really visualize it. And although you can see pictures, and if you've got a trained eye, you know what you're looking for, you can probably pick out the details. But you really got to start delving into the actual full specs, because there are some weird things in there to look for. So I pulled up 2 examples just to show you what I mean. So if you're looking at this, let's take a look. Now, this is Canyon. So this here is the Ultimate CF, the mechanical Ultegra. This is probably, the benchmark you want. You've got a carbon bike, aluminium wheels, an Ultegra group set. That's probably £1,000, too much money still. But anyway, by the by, and then this one is the new Di2. It's 3,099, and you might think, this is the only difference. And in Canyon, that is actually the only difference. If you scroll through all of this information, even the wheels, which is normally where they start to cheap out, are actually identical, which is awesome to see. However, if I just show you this example from Cannondale, this is what you're more likely to find. You see like 2 bikes looking pretty identical. This one here is a Super 6 Evo. This is at £4,000 for the Ultegra mechanical, and they want 6,300 for the Ultegra Di2, which is so much money. But to a layman, look, carbon wheels. The only sort of difference looks to be the Di2 and this crankset. And they've actually cheaped out on that crankset a fair bit. That is not the normal Cannondale quality crankset. They've dropped down a spec there. And if you start scrolling down even more, you'll see lots and lots of differences. It's a real shame that crankset is a big problem, because that'll be a heavy, cumbersome crankset. Sadly, it's not the Cannondale SI one that they sometimes fit. But the big one is the wheels. Now, look here at the Cologram 35s with a 19mm internal. That is really not very wide for a 25C tyre. Whereas on the more expensive one, they're putting that 45mm dip and 21mm internal. That's going to make quite a big difference to how a bike rides, feels, handles, etc. And the hubs on the cheaper Ultegra one, they're using these formula hubs. These are heavy. The free hubs are difficult to obtain. The engagement's not that great. These are not great hubs. Spokes, again, just Cannondale own brand. God knows who makes those. And the tyres are the Vittoria Rubino Pros compared to actually that's changed. They had them in the courses on the old model. But the hubs on these are actually the hologram knots, which are essentially DT Swiss, because these are all the DT Swiss 350 internals and stuff. So you're getting a significantly different set of wheels. And this is something that you're not always aware of. You ought to really delve into the details. And this is where I think actually visiting a shop can yield what it is that you're after. Because I don't know about you, but I'd be more interested in the mechanical with the better set of wheels than I would be in the Di2 stuff for the sort of the money I'm looking at. So yeah, check the details. Be aware of where the differences lie. It's not just a group set upgrade quite a lot of the time. Okay. Next up, I want to talk about the big box. And what I mean by the big box retailers, I'm pretty sure, I know there's lots of other people around the world watching this, and hopefully you can compare what I'm talking about here in the UK to what's in your home countries. But here in the UK, we don't really have independent big box retailers anymore. So Evans Cycles is one of the big ones. Quite a lot of big towns had an Evans Cycles in it, and Evans used to be able to ship bikes between locations so you could see or maybe buy the bike that you're after. Now Evans have been bought by Sports Direct. They also own Tri UK and those sort of things. So it's all kind of been incorporated into that, and the flexibility that might have been enjoyed by previous Sports Direct customers in terms of pricing and getting things together for you, they've kind of been a bit more constrained by how they work within the Sports Direct family. Same sort of goes with like Rutland Cycles. They've just been brought by Specialized, and they're in that transitional phase at the moment, but it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. But the other big ones really in the UK were Wheelbase. They had 3 stores just going into the pandemic. They've just been brought out by JD Sports. They've been opening new stores. And they've been opening those stores inside the Go Outdoors superstores. So I guess it's a bit like the American REI model. And that's quite interesting. I'm going to come on to that in a second. Alpine Bikes, another one more based up in sort of Scotland type area. That got brought by Taizo, And Taizo is part of the JD Sports family. And of course, Leisure Lakes as well, exactly the same idea. They've been brought by JD as well. So everything's sort of been consolidated quite a lot into either Sports Direct or mostly JD Sports. Now, it's kind of good to know this because you're not going to get the flexibility that you think you might do. There's quite a lot of regulations and how store managers can approach discounting and doing a deal and haggling. So, but the benefit of them is that you can go and see a massive range. I mean, actually see, touch, feel. And like I've just showed you with those Cannondales and that Canyon, it's a lot easier to see those differences up close. You know, you can see that the wheels are not such good quality. You can see that the crankset is going to be one of those big, heavy landfill items that you're probably going to upgrade in the future. You can see where they've cheaped out on things like bar tape and saddle choice because you can get on it and sit on it and touch it. And there'll probably be a sales assistant that can kind of guide you. Sales assistants in these big box stores can be a massive variety. Sometimes they're absolutely fantastic. Other times they could literally have been there 2 or 3 weeks and just starting their first job. So it's hard to make policy as to how good the service is that you're going to get. But remember, look out for, again, don't be distracted by the shiny group sets, the electronic upgrade or whatever. Really, really focus on those cheap chain sets. Have they cheaped out somewhere, and what it is that you want to upgrade? The sort of, have they sort of cheaped out and gone for lower spec wheels? And are you happy with the extra weight? And again, sort of tires as well. Just actually have a look at sort of what sort of tires they're fitting, and you should get a really, really good idea. Now, one of the massive red flags that I have with big box stores is the whole free bike fit thing, because they might have like an elaborate bike fitting type area, and chances are in these big box stores, it's probably just an employee that's had a couple of days training and a few like months of experience, and they're trying to charge 200 quid for like a bike fit. But of course it's free if you buy a new bike from them. And it's got a lot of that is smoke and mirrors. Like a bike fit for most people probably shouldn't take much more than 45 minutes. It's only really if you have sort of problems. And if you have, then you shouldn't be paying a sales assistant in a bike shop more than you would pay a physiotherapist for a proper physiotherapist type bike fit. So bear that in mind. It really is a sales tool. Trust me, I've been on those courses. They are definitely used as a sales tool more than a bike fitting tool. If you really do have like biomechanical, physiological problems, seek out like an independent bike fitter, you know, who's got like a physiotherapy type of background, and you'll probably get the bike fit that you want. Like 200 quid for a bike fit in a bike shop, I think is insane. Now, when it comes to haggling with these sort of shops, you will get somewhere. Now, the store managers will have like a limit of how far they can go from discounting. If it's things in the sale, they won't be able to discount it very much at all. If something is full price, and especially if you're going to buy some shoes and some water bottle cages and that sort of thing, they might sort of throw in water bottles for free, that sort of thing. But the best way to get the best price is really to price match. Nearly all of these big shops will have a price match policy. And the best thing to do is do all your shopping, get all the advice you need. If you're happy with what you're looking at and you want to make sure you get the best price, take a chill out. Again, don't be British about it. Go and get a cup of coffee, get on the internet, find that best price. And if you can go back into that shop with a phone, you know, that says, here in stock with shipping, I can get this for this price. Will you price match it? I guarantee you that the store manager will price match it for you. So, and therefore you got the bike that you're looking for. It's just do it. It's you got to look after yourself. Don't worry about them. Now, if you're going to an independent bike shop, then this gets even more interesting. And you might not get the cheapest, but I think you will get the cheapest of what it is that you actually want. And the way to approach your local bike shop is do your research. Have a really good idea of what's out there. Like, again, I'm using this Cannondale example. If you're interested in one of these bikes, for instance, and you've got a Cannondale dealer in town and you think this is kind of what you're looking for, make sure you've gone through the spec and you go, do you know what? You know, this is how I would do it. I would be like, I really want that carbon disc Ultegra, but I want a proper Ultegra chain set on there and I want a better set of wheels than that. And I'm happy to pay for it, but I want a good deal out of it. And this is where your independent bike shop can be really, really useful, especially if they've got one of these in stock. So call ahead, say, really interested in like a Cannondale Super 6 Evo. Have you got one in stock in a size 56? I'm really, really keen. If they have, go and visit them and talk to them, but then be armed with that knowledge that says, look, I've looked at the specs, could you put me a price together for a proper Shimano crankset, or even maybe a power meter or whatever, and a better set of wheels? And I bet you they will. I bet you they will get back to you and say, yeah, here you go. How about these wheels? We might have these in stock. We can knock a bit of price off this. We can fit a crankset on here. We can knock some money off that. We'll put it in the workshop. We'll get it all fitted for free, set it up tubeless. They will do that extra sort of work. And if you approach it by the idea of saying, can you give me a price that works for both of us? That's really the way to approach it, because if you acknowledge the fact that they need to make some money, but also you're a very savvy shopper, you've done your research, then they will likely get on the internet, find out what these sort of things are worth, make sure they get it as close as they possibly can to a good deal where they still make some money and you still save a lot of money as well. So I really do think it's worth speaking to your local bike shop, but really being armed with a bit of knowledge like that. Okay. Last one then is buying secondhand. Now, this is really interesting at the moment because there is quite a lot of like what we call the pandemic bikes, where people have, enjoyed those nice empty roads, and now the roads aren't empty and cycling is terrifying again. Those bikes aren't being used as much, and there are quite a lot of stuff up for sale. Now, I'm not going to go loads and loads and loads into this, but there are some things that you should probably be aware of that are going to sort of catch you out if you're not careful. So things to check is check the chain wear and the drivetrain wear. So if you've got worn out chain rings, for instance, chain rings can really be way more expensive than you think they are. A worn out chain and a worn out cassette is okay, but once you're starting to get into worn out chain rings, not good. Give everything a good shake. If you check the cranks aren't loose, check the wheels aren't loose, check the seat post still moves up and down, all those sort of obvious things. And then another thing to really, really check is a lot of people keep their bikes in the conservatory, and that's really bad for carbon fibers, like UV damage. So if you see any sort of paint fading, like it's been stored in a sort of a conservatory type place, then I probably wouldn't touch that too much. And also look for things that are really weird compatibility. So one of the major ones is on a road bike where they're still using post mount calipers. That's going to cause you issues down the line. And there were actually around what's coming on the market now, secondhand, like 2015, 2016, there were some road bikes out there shipping with rear axles that were 135 by 10 millimeters, which is a really unusual size, and you'll really struggle to find wheels and parts for that as well. So we get it here in the workshop quite a bit, where someone's brought a secondhand bike and we're like, no one really makes wheels for that. And we have to sort of find a hub and build it and that sort of stuff. So yeah, just check those few things. Okay, and lastly, e-bikes. And I've said this before on the channel, but if you're in the market for a new e-bike, really, really look at those proprietary items, because especially if you're buying online and they're used in proprietary items. Let's say you bought a Scott e-bike with a Scott e-bike motor and you brought it online. That's great. You got a fantastic deal. But when it comes around to servicing it, only a Scott dealer can really do anything with that e-bike motor, because places like us, we can't get access to Scott parts like that. So if you're 80 miles away from your nearest Scott dealer and you've got to hike a 35 kilo e-bike to them, that's going to be really, really inconvenient. So if your nearest bike shop, which is a bike ride away, the dealer of the bike that you buy, make sure that you're getting a Bosch motor, a Shimano motor, Fazua, those sort of things, where any bike shop can get in there, service it, get parts for it. Nothing wrong with proprietary, not necessarily, so long as you make sure that you can get there and actually do something with it. So yeah, hopefully there's some good top tips in there. I'm going to try and sort of detail them down in the description as well. There's quite a lot to go, I appreciate. But yeah, and also please add to the comments if you found things that really work, things to look for, little red flags that you think people should be aware of when you're buying a bike. And have you found any fantastic deals? Have you gone into your local bike shop, had a great discussion, and absolutely nailed exactly what you want and still got a good price, please put it down in the comments. I'll be dead keen to know. And if you like this sort of content, then please think about subscribing to the channel. The workshop now is getting slightly busier, so hopefully the channel will migrate over to so much more workshop tips and tricks as well. But I've quite enjoyed this sort of chat. All right, take it easy.